Let's go back to 1991. Streets of Rage. Welcome to episode 2 of Wrestling Banter, rather. Forgot the title of my own friggin' series, just as well next to nobody watches this. Wrestling Banter with PMDB. The reason I've forgotten the new title, well, it was originally supposed to be titled Life Wrestling with Life, but then I discovered that was a documentary. I thought best change the title to Wrestling Banter with PMDB. Surely that's not taken. So welcome to episode 2 of this new idea I had where I would commentate on a wrestling match. Coming up is my commentary of the 1993 Royal Rumble, but I'm not just going to be focusing on what's going on in the ring. I'm going to, talk about life in general. So, fasten your seatbelt, get ready for some banter about 993, 2019, and so on. Right now, I've got on a match I believe's overlooked. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Razor Ramon for the WWF Championship. I might do a video like this for that Pacific match sometime, but I'm going to skip on to the main event of the 1993 Rumble. I remember enjoying this one as a kid, so I've just started the match. It's on mute. Obviously, there will be no footage or audio of the actual match, as the Think has just introduced number 1, the 1992 Royal Rumble winner, Ric Flair, whom actually filmed his departure from the World Wrestling Federation in a taped Raw match with Mr. Perfect. So technically he was out of the WWF by this point, but this was his actual last live appearance for the WWF until 2001. Ric Flair stole the show at the 1992 Royal Rumble, which I talked about in my previous video, the first Wrestling Banter, where, I'll be commentating on this match as Bob Backlund runs out. I would have been 5 when I first watched this. I remember really enjoying it. I remember, Pacific moments like when the Giant Gonzalez comes out and thinking, what on earth is that? Is that guy real? Ric Flair versus Bob Backlund. Backlund was way before my time. I did enjoy him sometimes when he would, reappear, and it was quite the moment when he won the WWF Championship from Bret the Hitman Hart at the Survivor Series 994, when Owen got his mother to throw in the towel. It was what a hot feud that was between Bret Hart and Owen Hart in 994. One of the most well done feuds ever. Now there might be gaps now and again in this video where you won't hear me say anything because, well, I'm drinking as well. I feel like I've got a Koppenberg, strawberry flavored, instead of my usual cup of tea. I feel like I may need it for rewatching the Royal Rumble 993 on mute. It was commentated by Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. I guess you could call the Royal Rumble 1993 like a disappointing sequel to the 1992 Rumble, as Ric Flair does his overdramatic fall. There's a guy in a crowd, I've watched this a few times, there's a guy in a crowd that anytime, we're going to count down, 7, 6, 5. I'll talk about the guy in the crowd in a bit. As number 3, Papa Shango comes out. Yes, I've watched this a few times. Papa Shango, who was on his way out. You know, I mentioned in the 992 Royal Rumble video that Papa Shango was finished following his defeat by Bret Hart in the Sharpshooter. Like, I think there's certain characters out there that should not submit. Like, they should be above submitting, like The Undertaker, the Olmec Warrior, and Papa Shango as he gets tossed out by Ric Flair. I could even, you know, oh me, he was really in the middle of Job City in early '93. He'd come back as a number of gimmicks. The most successful one being the Godfather, but I didn't really, you know, I acknowledged the Godfather character was over, but I preferred Papa Shango, but he's gone. So there's a guy in the crowd, older guy, looks about in his 50s, 40s, must have been there with his kids or grandkids, whoever, and he just can't cope with how overdramatic Flair is. It's quite funny. Like, anytime Flair overreacts, oversells, which I find tremendously entertaining, the guy in the crowd's like, "Oh, this is too much. This is what a load of shit." He's probably saying to himself. I suspect this was probably his last wrestling event. Now, I've only been to one pay-per-view, was WrestleMania 25, which I'm not going to talk about much. I've talked about WrestleMania 25 enough. One of the worst manias ever. So we got a countdown to number 4, and it's the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Almost said Nasty Boy Knobs. Yes, that was his name, the Nasty Boy. The blonde Nasty Boy. What a stupid name, honest to God. We've got the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, in the ring now. Interesting trivia here. In the 1992 Royal Rumble, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was the only participant that didn't have an interaction with Flair. He was out by the time Flair came in. So I guess we're finally getting a wee interaction. They're double teaming Bob Backlund. Remember, Bobby the Brain Heenan referenced Bob Backlund during this match as being over the hill. But I think Ric Flair was older than him at this point. Ric Flair and Ted DiBiase right now are double teaming Bob Backlund. Now, I will say, Bob Backlund goes on to, the very end of this match. The crowd's actually rooting him on to win towards the very end. And he proves, like Ric Flair did the previous year, that he's got quite the stamina. Slick Rick and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, as we get the countdown clock on. 6, 5, 4, 3. Snob's next. The blonde nasty boy, as he sprints to the ring. Looks so happy to be there. 993, like 992, was another transitional year. The difference being 993 didn't have so many stars left over from the golden age of wrestling, so it was a worse year. It's not looked back on too fondly, as Knobs tries to throw out Ric Flair, and Ric Flair manages to hang on. He's not going anywhere yet. We've only had the one elimination, Papa Shango, by Ric Flair. What was I doing in 1993? I was unemployed. I was only 5, to be honest. I would have been at Fernley Primary 1. I always look back at 1993, I always look back at my childhood in general as, the best or the most genuine, happiest time of my life. I always feel like 1993 was probably the best year of my childhood. I remember like really being happy and excited about things, and I always feel like that was my finest year of my youth. As we have the blonde, I'm just going to call him the blonde nasty boy, as he's shown. Wrestling's so strange sometimes, some of the moves. He's battling it out with the $1 Million Man right now, as Ric Flair is battling Bob Backlund. And in comes Virgil, the former bodyguard of Ted DiBiase, and right away they continue their feud. Virgil was also in the 1992 Royal Rumble. I must admit, their feud was definitely good. Virgil was limited in the ring, but his feud with Ted DiBiase, pretty damn good. I felt, DiBiase, as I've mentioned previously, is in my top 10 wrestlers of the Golden Age. And this would be his last wrestling year. He would retire following not too long after SummerSlam 1993. I believe that was his last WWF wrestling match, as he eliminates the blonde nasty boy. Goodbye. I was never a big fan of the Nasty Boys. As I always say, now I was just about to say again, get Demolition in the Hall of Fame. News today, or yesterday now, Batista and the NWO, Hulk Hogan, or Hollywood Hogan, should I say, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall and X-Pac again will be going into the WWE Hall of Fame. NWO definitely deserved to be there. I'm not sure X-Pac. If I were inducted in the NWO, I'd have just done the 3 founding members. I don't think X-Pac is worthy of a 2-time Hall of Fame induction. As Jerry the King Lawler comes out, he's really good in this Royal Rumble match. He is, there's a moment with him and Perfect, when Perfect's been perfect in the Royal Rumble, getting great eliminations, and him and Jerry clash in this matchup, and oh me, it's just brilliant work from both men. Totally make you believe for a split second that they really hate each other. That's how you work a wrestling match. When you get people to suspend their disbelief for a split second that these two guys really hate each other, that's when you've done a good job as a wrestler. It's not how many fancy flippity flip-flop moves you can do. It's about the characters and the story. Now back to this Hall of Fame, as Virgil, Ric Flair, Jerry Lawler, and Bob Backlund and Ted DiBiase are battling away in this Royal Rumble match. So the NWO definitely deserve to be in. Hogan will be a two-time Hall of Famer, along with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. I think Hogan deserves to be a two-time Hall of Famer. I noticed the picture was of Kevin Nash. It should really have been of Hulk Hogan. He's the star. He's the guy, the main guy. As we got countdown clock on, heard someone shouting outside. A little bit distracted there. It's late at night here as I record this. As Max Moon comes in. Max Moon. So, just like with the commentating for the 1992 Royal Rumble, once again, it's excellent work by Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. And I specifically remember as Max Moon delivers a dropkick to Jerry Lawler, Monsoon quipping, "What a dangerous maneuver, a dropkick in a Royal Rumble." Big backdrop from Max Moon to Ric Flair. It's definitely, like I said earlier, a disappointing sequel, if you will, to the 1992 Royal Rumble. But I really enjoyed this as a kid, and I still have a good time watching this one. I think it's a pretty decent show overall. I mean, the WWF Championship match between Bret Hart. I take a swig of my drink here. Bret Hart and Razor Ramon's really solid. Apparently, according to Bret Hart, that was originally supposed to be Warrior in the role of Razor Ramon, where Warrior was supposed to submit to the sharpshooter. I'm so glad that didn't happen, because that wouldn't have done any favor for Bret Hart or fit the Warrior character at all. The Ultimate Warrior had been fired once again just before the Survivor Series Night 2. He returned at WrestleMania 8, and but was gone by before the Survivor Series. I think Max Moon time is almost up here, as he's running into the King, misses the King, and out he goes before the next participant comes in, which is Tenryu. Oh yes, now we're talking. I used to love when Tenryu would appear in Royal Rumbles, because WWE, WWF at the time had not much stars. I needed to fill up the slots and had to hire Japanese wrestlers to come in. And Tenryu looks like a gangster. He looks like a legit tough wrestler. As Ric Flair does another dramatic fall, and the older guy I mentioned in the crowd, I was quite kind to him about his age. He actually, looking at him now, I think he's maybe in his 60s, the guy in the crowd, older guy in the crowd. And that is, he just dropped his head there when he seen Ric Flair overreacting to chops from Tenryu. But Tenryu, the Royal Rumbles he was in, he was always solid. I thought he performed ace in the 1994 Royal Rumble. And we've got Ric Flair, and he just helped Virgil back in. I'm not sure where the logic was there. Logic usually goes out the window with wrestling, doesn't it? Trying to figure out, I'm looking at my time here. I can only record this for an hour. Royal Rumbles last longer than an hour. So I'm trying to figure out a time when to stop this and start a new recording. So we're waiting the arrival of The Undertaker, the gigantic Yokozuna. Macho Man Randy Savage appears in this match. Every time I watch this, I always get surprised when Savage appears at number 30. It's a good surprise, because he was like being phased out by this time, as the countdown clock counts down 1. Oh, it's Mr. Perfect's running out, he's bolting out his way. Now this is probably the best moment of the Royal Rumble. This is brilliant stuff from Ric Flair and Perfect. Wailing away at each other. Chop, chop, chop. The crowd's loving it. And just days before, they had taped their matchup for a future Raw, which I believe was the next night to be aired after this. As Ric Flair goes to the top rope, only to get caught by Perfect to be elevated back into the ring. They were chums this time last year. Perfect was actually managing Ric Flair, but then they weren't so friendly towards the end of 1992, and Perfect returned to in-ring action to replace the Ultimate Warrior at the Survivor Series and team up with the Macho Man. It didn't make a lot of sense, to be honest. Was a bit. I do believe Mr. Perfect works best as a heel. He's actually a pretty good face too, but I do believe he works best as a heel. But damn, the chemistry him and Ric Flair had against each other, with each other, was tremendous. Mr. Perfect, so take another swig of my drink here. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2007. I think was it his dad that inducted him in? I can't remember. The infamous WrestleMania with the Battle of the Billionaires as we count down to the next participant, whom I think is Skinner. See if I'm right. It is Skinner. I mentioned in the 992 Rumble video I did that Skinner really reminds me of a YouTuber. I best not mention his name, as he kicks Perfect in the behind. Skinner the Alligator Man. Now I asked in my 992 Royal Rumble video that only one person watched, does anybody know what happened to Skinner? Because I have no idea. Oh wait, Ric Flair, oh, he's gone, he's out. Big clothesline. Or actually, it was like a palm in the face, and Mr. Perfect forced Ric Flair out there. Ric Flair was going berserk. Highly entertaining spot. Big crowd pop. And this would be the last time we'd see Ric Flair live in a WWF ring for about 8 years. I remember Raja.com, which is still about a wrestling news and rumors site. They spoiled Ric Flair's return for me. I was furious back in 2001. There's an awkward spot there. Virgil was holding Jerry the King Lawler for Mr. Perfect to attack, and Mr. Perfect just no-sold it and walked away. And yeah, a little bit awkward. But that interaction with Flair and Perfect, definitely the best moment of what I call the first chapter of this matchup. I always feel like there's 3 chapters in the Royal Rumble. Like in 2001, you'd get silliness but fun stuff with the hardcore wrestlers. As Coco Beware comes out, he was teaming with Owen Hart at this time. High Energy, they were called. Not sure on his gear. It's something, all right. But yeah, I was talking about the 2001 Royal Rumble. And you had the hardcore segment, then you had the Big Show surprise return moment, and then you had, the finale with Austin and Kane. Now, the 2001 Royal Rumble, I don't own the 2001 Royal Rumble. I used to on VHS, but it no longer exists. But if I ever get a copy of that show, as Skinner's been thrown over the top here, he's about to get a drop kick from Perfect, out Skinner goes. And I don't think we'll see Skinner again in a Royal Rumble. Yeah, I think it's his farewell Skinner. Yeah, if I do get a copy of the 2001 Royal Rumble, I'll definitely be one of those that I commentate on. So last night's video was more of a test, but I felt like it worked well. You know, he had me talking about the wrestlers entering and, you know, now and again talking about other things or mentioning what was up to in the year 1992 as the countdown clock is on again. The Undertaker's arriving soon, I know that. As Samu comes out, Samu of the Head Shrinkers. I was never really a fan of that, their gimmick either. But in this Royal Rumble, and in the 1994 Royal Rumble, I mean, in this one, when the Undertaker eliminates him, he takes a sick bump to the outside. And then in the 1994 Royal Rumble, he gets caught up in the ropes when he gets chucked out. And he's just, you know, hanging there. And it's like Scott Steiner has to help him out. And, you know, he's supposed to be the guy that's throwing him out. And he ends up helping him because he gets caught up in the ropes. As DiBiase delivers a pretty good knee to Virgil. We have Mr. Perfect still in it. Bob Backlund, Jerry the King Lawler, Samu. See, back in 1993, and during the Attitude Era, I could not fault Jerry Lawler. His commentating was ace in the Attitude Era, and even the era after that, before the John Cena bullcrap. Also enjoyed, you know, when he would interview wrestlers. I thought he was gold at pretty much everything he did. He's really great in this Royal Rumble. But I can't bear to listen to him today. I think everything's so politically correct, and I think he's just bored. He's just there for the money, I think, now. As we get another participant, and it is the Berserker. I'm never too excited to see the Berserker. Yeah, the Berserker. Now, I did have a figure of the Berserker. I think I gave it to, or my cousin took it, younger cousin took it. And I think I just said keep it. As the Berserker's ruining a spot with Mr. Perfect and Jerry Lawler now. Is this a fantastic spot coming up? Jerry Lawler is about to be eliminated. We try and give him Mr. Perfect a big punch, and out Jerry goes. Not sure how much has been recorded there. I think my audio messed up, but Jerry Lawler, in a very amusing segment, has just been eliminated by Mr. Perfect, and now all the heels and Coco Beware are desperately trying to get Mr. Perfect out. Lawler's pulling him from the outside. Total cheats going on. Total bullying going on right now. DiBiase just delivered a boot to Perfect's face, and out he goes. And like Bobby Heenan quips in the commentary, Jerry Lawler just made a enemy for life. But that whole spot of Perfect first eliminating Jerry the King Lawler, and then Perfect being attacked by DiBiase and being tossed over the top rope, and then Jerry Lawler helping them get him out as the countdown clock is on for the next participant, and I believe it's The Undertaker next. And I just noticed Mr. Perfect before he went. This is quite a fun spot here. Paul Bear comes out, Jerry Lawler's on his way back to the dressing room and he almost bumps into The Undertaker. Great reaction there. But I just noticed there, and the crowd's loving the zombie Undertaker. He's really over it this time. Before Perfect left, he managed to get a cheap shot there on DiBiase, a little bit of revenge. As Samu attacks zombie Undertaker, big headbutt from Samu. Bob Backlund gets conveniently knocked through the ropes by the Berserker, as he's not going to be eliminated anytime soon. Chair shot to the gut. The Undertaker's about to clean house. There's the dangerous spot coming up from the Undertaker. Like a choke slam over the top rope, looked dangerous. Now Tenryu is saying, having a go at the Undertaker, chopping away. Running towards the Undertaker now, and he's backdropped out. Yeah, the Undertaker was booked so well back then, dominant. Still very early in his career. He had joined in 99 Survivor Series. Just started his legendary winning streak at WrestleMania. As the Berserker and Koko Beware battle it out. This would be Ted DiBiase's last Royal Rumble participating. The following year he would be doing some commentary. We've got another participant about to join. I think it's the Red Rooster. Yes, Terry Taylor. Poor Terry Taylor. He gets Hercules' job role for this year. He doesn't get to do much. I guess he was a sound wrestler, Terry Taylor, but he doesn't look all that menacing or all that interesting. He doesn't look like a character you'd, pay to see. So DiBiase has just ditched Koko Beware and Terry Taylor outside. And he's going to waltz into a choke slam. See, I'm not sure I like spots like this where they'll get a finishing maneuver and then get right back up from it and then get a clothesline out. Now, Austin used to do this too. You'd give like someone a stunner, and then they'd get right back up and he'd clothesline them out. It's sort of like made their finisher look shit. But here he comes. WWE said he was 8'4". The Giant Gonzalez debuting at the 993 Royal Rumble. I think he was about 7'6", still a giant. Ridiculous looking outfit. Even at 5, I thought this was ridiculous. As we're going to get a confrontation now between this mammoth, the Giant Guns. Now, even as a young kid, these two, the Giant Gonzalez and the Undertaker, would match up at WrestleMania 9. Here, at the 993 Royal Rumble, the Giant Gonzalez destroys the Undertaker. And then we're meant to believe a few months later that the Undertaker can beat him. And at SummerSlam, a few months after that, defeats him. Quite the thing. Bullshit. Even when I was a young kid, I thought that was bullcrap. But it's quite the moment. I really remember this moment from my childhood as Damien Demento or IRS, I think, is coming down the aisle. And both of them are scared to get in the ring because of the Giant Gonzalez. Great selling going on. It's Damien Demento. He was The Undertaker's first opponent on Monday Night Raw. As the Giant Gonzalez with big chop eliminates the Undertaker, who falls on his feet. Down to one knee. The Giant Gonzalez, now, he were a participant in the Royal Rumble, which he's not an official one. He just eliminated himself. You can only jump over the top rope and eliminate yourself and not be eliminated. You can only do that if you're the Macho Man. as Damien Demento. I love how they're selling the Giant Gonzalez as this monster. Like Damien Demento looks terrified of him. It kind of ruins his character, but it's really putting over the Giant Gonzalez strong as the Undertaker's tossed back into the ring. He just took a Mick Foley type bump into the steel steps. You know, when Mick Foley used to run into the steel steps and go over it with his knee, it always looks sick. Now, the Undertaker's about to get a taste of his own medicine, a giant choke slam. And they really sell it like the Undertaker is done. And then you have Paul Bearer coming out trying to get him back up to sit up again. To no avail. The Undertaker's like lying flat here for a while. As Irwin R. Seister, my favorite tie-wearing wrestler, comes out. There's a lot of comparisons to The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, The Fiend. Now we have Bray Wyatt's dad come out, and Bo Dallas' dad, Irwin R. Seister, who is in no hurry to make it to the ring. And you almost forget, because he's been out for a while, he went through the ropes, Bob Backlund is still in this match. He conveniently got thrown out through the ropes. But The Undertaker is out. There's a lot of officials trying to get the Giant back to the dressing room out. He is a ridiculous suit, but what a beast. You know, legit 7'6". Got Sergeant Slaughter there. As Giant Gonzalez is bantering with the fans. But yeah, that suit sort of ruins it. I'm not sure why they gave him such a ridiculous, fake-looking suit. But he's just destroyed The Undertaker as Damien Demento and Irwin R. Seister as The Undertaker is trying to set up. But we currently have Damien Demento and Irwin R. Seister. They were attacking Bob Backlund at first, now attacking each other. That friendship didn't last long. Now, despite, looking back at 1993 as being not such a good year for the WWEF back then, I thought the Royal Rumble pay-per-view was fun overall. Solid King of the Ring. Survivor Series was garbage. WrestleMania 9 was garbage. SummerSlam not so good either. As Tatanka runs out to the ring. SummerSlam was an odd show. Here comes Paul Bearer trying to get The Undertaker set up again. And I was watching the podcast with The Undertaker and Steve Austin, and just like I had thought before, The Undertaker says he got the idea of the set-up gimmick from Halloween's very own Michael Myers. So yeah, he stole that from Michael Myers, but it really fits the Undertaker character. I gotta miss Paul Bearer. He was such gold. He really helped that Undertaker character along. I don't think the Undertaker the character in general would have been so great if it hadn't been for Paul Bearer in the early days. Them two, what a great combination they were. We talk about these days how Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar are a great combination. And back then, Paul Bearer and The Undertaker were a fantastic combo. As the participants currently in the ring are Damien Demento, The Undertaker's first Raw opponent, Bob Backlund, who was number 2 in this match, Irwin R. Seister, and Tatanka. Star-studded Royal Rumble, ladies and gentlemen. But like I say, it's still fun. And the commentary during this match is still great. Not as great, Bobby the Brain Heenan's always great, but he was just on such another level in the 1992 Royal Rumble. But here he's still very solid, and there's still some funny lines, which would probably be deemed politically incorrect these days, but there's some fantastic lines in this show as the Nasty Boy Sags runs out. Both Nasty Boys are. I think this is the first Royal Rumble where both Nasty Boys were actually in it. It always seems to be like one or the other. Last year it was just Sags. This year we got both of them. Yeah, like I've said before, I've never been a fan of the Nasty Boys. I remember hearing them talk about how the time they attacked Ken Shamrock in real life. Always felt that story was, what nice guys, eh? And apparently, when Ken Shamrock, confronted them years later at an airport, one of them or both of them, basically shit themselves when they saw him. So, I was not a fan of their character inside the ring, and not a fan of what I hear outside of the ring either. They didn't seem. I guess the fitted their name, the Nasty Boys. This is an ideal time to stop this. Right. This is my second audio recording of the 993 Royal Rumble. Wonderful pictures I'll use this time. I love using random pictures, mostly of myself because I've got heaps of pictures, but not everybody likes to be on a YouTube video, so just usually just use myself or picture of one of the cats as Typhoon Tugboat, the Shockmaster before, or was this? I think it was just after he did the Shockmaster gimmick, or was it? Am I getting my years mixed up? But when he's running out here, Bobby Heenan has an excellent quip, which should probably be deemed politically incorrect these days, so best not repeat it, but it always amuses me. So we've got Typhoon, he's battling Damien Demento. I think Typhoon left not long after this, then went to WCW, and that's when the infamous, famous Shockmaster botch moment happened. I was a big fan of Earthquake, who's also in this match. I think he's overlooked these days. He was a legit sumo wrestler, legit tough guy. He always looked. He was a big boy, Earthquake. He was one of those wrestlers that really looked larger than life. Like, I would hate to be near him when he's angry. He just, had that awe to him, Earthquake. Typhoon, I don't really get that awe. He's not as big as Earthquake. But I did like the team up of Earthquake and Typhoon, the Natural Disasters. What a tag team they were. I mean, they looked unbeatable. Probably should have been booked better. Always felt like it would take something to defeat them. As the countdown clock goes on here, they did have a match with the Legion of Doom the previous year, but I don't think it was that great of a match from what I can remember. One of those matches that would have looked better on paper. As the guy that ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin 20 years ago now comes out. Fatu, who would later be known as Rikishi, is out, and he just gave a stiff-looking super kick to Typhoon. I noticed, I think it was Woke Culture, Cultaholic, same thing, to be honest. I used to be a big fan of both, but I've gone off them lately because they're so social justice warrior-like, and too left-leaning for my liking. But I noticed they had a list. I never watched it because I think they really milk the lists and really running out of ideas. But I had a list about moments of what nearly ended the Attitude Era, and in the thumbnail was Rikishi and the moment where he revealed himself to be the guy that ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, to me, I thought that was a fun, over the top storyline. I don't think it ruined the Attitude Era at all. Now, everything was gold in the Attitude Era, but give me the worst ever Raw's War episode during the Attitude Era, and it will still be 100 times better than anything WWE, AEW, New Japan Wrestling, TNA, is that still around? Anything the others do today. I'm not a fan of today's wrestling. Some people think I'm still a big fan of today's wrestling in general, but the reason I talk about wrestling so much is because, unfortunately, I used to be obsessed with it when I was a young kid, teenager, blah, 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 blah. And I know a lot about it because I was that obsessed, and it's something safe to talk about as Earthquake pops out. Now, we have Yokozuna also in this match. I actually got to see Yokozuna when he came to my home city, as Earthquake is attacking his own partner, Typhoon, right away. No nonsense here. Two big Bohemians going at it one-on-one. As Typhoon's about to realize who is the guy in the team, who is the top dog. Natural disaster is about to realize that Earthquake is more severe than a typhoon. But yeah, I got to see Yokozuna in person in 2000. It would have just been about just before he passed away, or maybe it was 1999, as Typhoon is eliminated by the Earthquake. He nearly fell into a couple of guys sitting outside of the ring. But yeah, I got to see Yokozuna. He died, I don't think he was very young, or very old at all, rather. I think he was only like 33 or something, which is scary because I'm 32 now. And yeah, spoke about it often, wrestlers dying young, not reaching 40s. What's to blame? Even though it's all, predetermined, whatnot, it's very real what goes on in the ring. A lot of real injuries and deaths happen in the ring. And wrestlers, between what goes on in the ring, the travel schedule, the partying scene back in earlier days, as Carlito's dad comes out, and I've forgotten what his name is. As did, I remember Gorilla Monsoon, forgot his name too. I think it's Carlos Colon. Carlos Colon is now in the ring. And I think Monsoon quips that he's a youngster and he's clearly like about 50. So yeah, young at 50, I guess, in 1993. I think Monsoon had his wrong glasses on this night. So in the ring right now is Carlitos Da, Carlos Colon, Damien Demento still going about, Earthquake, Erwin R. Sleister, Tatanka, Bob Backlund. Damien Demento just got tossed out by Carlos Colon, whom goes to battle Fatu. So yeah, a who's who of wrestling in this Royal Rumble. You could maybe call it at times the Jobber Royal Rumble. Very interesting roster in 1993. Very interesting roster. You know, from Bob Backlund to Max Moon to Tenryu in this Royal Rumble. As we get the countdown clock on. 5, 4. I'll take a swig of my drink. Out comes Tio Santana, whom featured in the first 8 WrestleManias. I named all his matches in the last video. I'm not going to do that again here. But he wouldn't quite make it to WrestleMania 9, as Fatu was eliminated by Bob Backlund. Tatanka almost getting thrown out there as Tio Santana is battling away with the earthquake. Tio Santana, as he gets a stiff-looking clothesline to the neck by Bob Backlund, wouldn't quite make it to WrestleMania 9. He would be in a non-televised portion of the show, which to me doesn't count, against Papa Shango, who was in this match earlier. To me, WrestleMania is long enough, and all that pre-show push before the actual pay-per-view comes on for WrestleManias and the Survivor Series and your Money in the Banks, all the pre-show stuff doesn't count, in my opinion. This shows, especially WrestleMania, is long enough. Bob Backlund looks knackered. He looks really tired. I mean, kudos to him in 1993. I mean, I don't think he was as active as Ric Flair was in the 1992 Royal Rumble, but he's still going for it in this one. And he's by no means near my top 10 list of wrestlers, but you know, what a great performance he had in the 1993 Royal Rumble. I would say he was the MVP of this show, if truth be told. It was the crowd were wanting him to win, as Rick the Model Martel pops out in his pink tights. I love his attire. He always made him stand out from the rest, as he goes after his former tag team partner, Tio Santana. As Santana's getting that ridiculous top turnbuckle spot of his head bouncing into it 10 times usual, as Erwin R. Seister runs into the earthquake, misses the earthquake, and out he goes. My favorite tie-wearing wrestlers out. And like with the 1992 Royal Rumble, I've got a lot of these wrestlers. You know, got a lot of the action figures I had. I don't think there was one for Carlos Colon. I think this was just a one-done deal here at the Royal Rumble. I had Rick Martel, I had Tatanka, I had Earthquake in a different attire. I had one in his blue attire. And I had both the Nasty Boys. In fact, the Nasty Boys, you know, if I ever dig out my old action figures, they always look the best because I never used them when I was young. So this would be the first Rumble match where the winner would go on to face the champion at WrestleMania. That tradition started nearly 27 years ago now. A lot of people, God, Carlos Colon and Earthquake are really battling it out in this match. They're really going at it. But I guess it elevated the Royal Rumble. And this is what Survivor Series needs, as Mr. Fuji leads out Yokozuna, number 27 entry. Yeah, I think the Survivor Series needs like something like the winner or the one who gets the most eliminations goes on to do something at WrestleMania. Because it certainly elevated the Royal Rumble match. My audio may have went out there. I'm never sure how good it sounds until I listen to it myself, so I'm sorry if it cuts out now and again. As Tatanka, so Yokozuna just came in, and he's battling away with Tatanka, and he eliminates Tatanka just like that. Now Carlos Colon, the youngster Carlos Colon, is now going at it with Yokozuna. Yokozuna, I think, was about at least 500 pounds here, as he now we've got a showdown with Yokozuna and Earthquake here. There's been a number of memorable showdowns in the Royal Rumble history. There was the one with the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan meeting for the first time, Austin and The Rock, so on, so forth. I think this one is another great showdown. Two of the biggest guys at the time. There hasn't been too many. I don't think there's been anybody bigger than Yokozuna, and there definitely hasn't been many people bigger than the Earthquake. So this was a legit exciting moment here in the Royal Rumble, because Quake was 400 pounds plus Yokozuna. In comes the Rocket Owen Hart, whom years later would go on to team with Yokozuna. Now, like with my 992 Royal Rumble video, I'm going to stop this video as soon as a certain big wrestler wins this match, because that's enough talking for one video. So when Hart's just ran in, his partner Coco Beware was in earlier on, as Yokozuna gives Earthquake a belly-to-belly over the top rope, out Quake goes. So the bigger of the two guys prevails. They really made, in this match, Yokozuna look like a beast. Like Bret Hart was in trouble, as Bret Hart would go on to face Yokozuna at WrestleMania 9, which was a rubbish match. Bret Hart, I love the Hitman, but he has had some crap matches, and usually those rubbish matches feature Yokozuna. Bret Hart was able to get great matches out of Kevin Nash, 5-star classics with his brother, who was also very talented. Shawn Michaels, great matches out of usually just about anybody, even those who weren't that great in the ring. But he could not get a good match out of Yokozuna. Yokozuna was more suited for opponents like The Undertaker. His casket match with The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble a year later after this was classic. As he chucks out Tito Santana, or not quite, Tito Santana survived. As number 29 is about to come in, and it's the Repo Man. It's the Repo Man. Smash, Demolition Smash. He looks so happy to be there. Now, I believe this would be the last time we'll see the Repo Man in a Royal Rumble match, as he goes straight after the Yokozuna, who no-sells him, headbutt down Repo Man goes. And he's got the look of, what the hell did I just do there? So Repo Man would be done not too long after this show. We wouldn't see the Repo Man until WrestleMania X7. When he came back in the gimmick Battle Royal as Repo Man, we never would see him as Demolition Smash again in the WWF ring, sadly. And for years, Axe and Smash didn't speak to each other in real life, or had gone their different ways. I don't think they had fell out. They just, hadn't seen each other for a long time. But then they finally reunited in 2007. And we're going to see Demolition in action on the independent scene once again. As all the wrestlers now are ganging up on Yokozuna, trying to eliminate him. I think there's about 6 of them trying to eliminate. I think they definitely would have got him out in real life. This happens. This is like a Royal Rumble trope where the wrestlers in the ring will gang up on the biggest wrestler, like the Big Show. And here they were ganging up on Yokozuna, but to no avail there, as the Macho Man Randy Savage is about to come out. You can definitely tell a difference between the 992 Royal Rumble and 993 Royal Rumble. There's much more to talk about in the 992 Royal Rumble due to the stars that were in it. I've just managed to, keep this going, I think. As Savage is really going for Repo Man. What's he? Oh, I'm just remembering. They had a bit of a feud going on at the time. Repo Man and Savage. I think Repo Man was stealing or stole his hat and stuff. And so we're down to the final stage of the Royal Rumble. Savage and Repo Man, Tio Santana and Yokozuna. Tio Santana's out now. Second time's a charm. So Yokozuna is looking very strong, booked very well in this match, like he should have been. Logically, the biggest guy in the match should win, as Owen Hart just kicked Nasty Boy Sags out. Owen Hart just got tossed over the top rope, but he fails to get back in first time around. Took 2 times to get back in there. As he goes after his future tag team partner, Yokozuna. Now that was a great fun tag team. Yokozuna and Owen Hart. As Yokozuna throws Owen Hart out, and Owen Hart lands awkwardly on his knee. Repo Man's out too, but Owen Hart, to go back to Owen Hart elimination, he landed awkwardly on his knee. I think he blew his knee out. I think that's what Bobby Heenan actually said in commentary. And I think he was legit injured after that, and you wouldn't see him at WrestleMania 9, which is a shame, because Owen Hart was fantastic in the ring. Fantastic wrestler. Underrated a little bit. I guess he was always in the shadow of Bret Hart. But Owen Hart, I think for me, was the MVP of 1994. I thought he had a great 5-star steel cage match with his brother Bret at SummerSlam. Stole the show. That's the type of match I would sit and do a video like this with. And he was just great at the King of the Ring. Very memorable, botched interview at the Royal Rumble when he said he kicked Bret's leg out of his leg. But definitely my MVP in 1994 and one of the greatest wrestlers ever. As Bob Backlund and Rick Martel are battling out, it's the final 4. And Rick Martel is gone. He's out of here. And the crowd's really loving Backlund. They're definitely, at this point, wanting him to win. I remember Bobby Heenan going about how it's unbelievable, as Backlund should have just, he made a big boo-boo here attacking Yokozuna, who was concentrating on the Macho Man Randy Savage, who came in at number 30 and already looks like he's been in a war. So we've got a showdown here between Yokozuna and Bob Backlund. Triple drop kicks. And Backlund's gone, he's out. Yokozuna sidestepped him as Backlund was running in. We're down to the final two, Savage and Yokozuna. Where's Hulk Hogan to save the day? Hulk Hogan was absent from the World Wrestling Federation between WrestleMania 8 and just before WrestleMania 9. So it was kind of we'd never seen a time, during the WrestleMania years where there was no Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam or Survivor Series or Rumble. We are dead in the middle of the transitional years of the World Wrestling Federation, just before the next generation would officially kick off the year later, led by Bret Hart and then later led by Shawn Michaels. So we've got, this is now, unfortunately, Yokozuna and Savage are no longer here. It's disheartening watching some of these old wrestling tapes back because a lot of them are no longer here. I spoke about Savage a great deal over the years on video of how great he was. He would be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2015. Years too late, to be honest. He should have been inducted in while he was still alive. Yokozuna was inducted, I believe, in 2013. We've got Mr. Fuji outside with a large Japanese flag. Yokozuna wasn't actually from Japan. I'm not sure where he actually was from. As Savage has given Yokozuna some lefts and a right and another right and one more, trying to knock him off his feet. Yokozuna had this gimmick where wrestlers would try and knock him off his feet, and sometimes they would get him down to one knee, as Savage does here with a double axe handle off the top rope. And you'd hear Bobby Heenan screaming, he's down, he's on one knee. As he's going for another double axe handle. Down to one knee now. I wonder, Yokozuna must have been quite young here. It must have been 27 or something, I'm thinking, here. Or even younger than that, actually. Savage just got taken out with a wee kick there. And now, belly-to-belly suplex on Savage. And it doesn't look good for the Randy one. Now, Savage by this point was getting phased out of the World Wrestling Federation as far as being a wrestler was. But he could still, it was weird because he could still go. As Yokozuna drops the leg on Savage, a Hulk Hogan style leg drop. He's felt a few of them before. I think my audio messed up there. I won't know how bad or good this will sound until I watch it myself. We'll listen back rather, and then decide what pictures to use in this slideshow of a video. I just hope it's not a shit show. I'll let others decide that. My 992 Royal Rumble video is also available on BitChute. I'm not going to put this one up on BitChute. I can't be bothered. Due to late. I might put it on Facebook just for it to be in another place, my private Facebook. Next year, however, I'm going to take a break from video making for a while, but when I do return next year for the grand old 10th anniversary of PMDB videos, all my videos will be on BitChute as well as YouTube. As the Yokozuna's charging into the Macho Man, Randy Savage just squashed him, literally just squashed him. As Mr. Fuji tells him to do it one more time. Savage moves out of the way. Yokozuna rams into the corner. Falls down. Savage is on top turnbuckle. Big elbow drop. Savage, for some reason, goes to pin Yokozuna and then jumps over the top rope. Yeah. Bit of a strange finish there. But there you have it, the winner of the 993 Royal Rumble, and on his way to Caesar Palace, WrestleMania 9 to face Bret the Hitman Hart, the 993 Yokozuna, who was very dominant in this match. And you can already see the crowd. It's a bit harsh there, going there out here. I guess it was kind of rare to see a bad guy win the main event. Usually during these times there would be a happy ending with Hulk Hogan or the Ultimate Warrior returning. But we're not getting that here. Yokozuna has looked dominant and he's on his way to WrestleMania 9. And I'm on my way to grab myself a cup of tea. Hope you enjoyed this, folks. Not sure if I'll do this again for a Royal Rumble, but we shall see how this turns out. And I'll see you all again soon on YouTube and BitChute.